Welcome to another Bible contemplation. Not sure that you can see outside. There's a bit of down there. You can see a bit of snow. It's sort of -3.5, -4, but the electric heater in here is soon warming it up. Lovely bright day though, so actually it's great. So another look at 1 Peter. We've now got to chapter 4, verses 3 to 6. But first, let's just have a moment to tune in to God's presence. Connecting with where we are at the moment in life. And the presence of God within us. Connecting with that spring of love. Allowing that love to envelop us, to assure us that we are loved, and empowering us to love others. In the prayer, Jesus, may all that is in you bubble up inside us. May your body and blood be our food and drink. May your passion and death be our strength and life. Jesus, with you by our side, enough has been given. May the shelter we seek be the shadow of your cross. Let us not run from the love which you offer, but hold us safe from the forces of evil. On each of our dying, shed your light and your love. Keep calling us until that day comes, when with your saints we may praise you forever. Amen. So the passage, for you have spent enough time in the past doing what the pagans choose to do, living in debauchery, lust, drunkenness, orgies, carousing, and detestable idolatry. They are surprised that you do not join them in their reckless wild living, and they heap abuse on you. But they will have to give account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. For this is the reason the gospel was preached, even to those who are now dead, so that they might be judged according to the human standards in regard to the body, but live according to God in regard to the spirit. So I had to look a few of these words up because I wasn't quite sure what they meant. Debauchery, extreme indulgence and bodily pleasures, especially sexual pleasures. Carousing, drinking alcohol and speaking and laughing loudly in a group of people. But I think that the nub of it for me is, what does it mean? The gospel was preached even to those who are now dead, so that they might be judged according to human standards in regard to the body, but live according to God in regard to the spirit. Well, I had a little scan on the internet for this, and I'm very impressed with what I came up with. My feeling was that people were trying to sort of fit that sentence into the sort of accepted understanding of Christian doctrine that people had, rather than saying, what is Peter on about here? What do I think? Preaching to those who are now dead. I think it points us to there being more to what happens after we die than we have really understood and appreciated, which I think, and this is probably my prejudice coming out here, and current prejudice anyway, leaves more room for God's judgment being loving and inclusive than we might otherwise expect. and I base that on the last words, that those who have died can still be spiritually alive to God. And preaching to the dead is connected with where Jesus went between his death and resurrection, the sort of Holy Saturday, the Eastern Orthodox tradition of the harrowing of hell, the sort of emptying of hell, almost closing down of hell at that point. So I don't know what was in Peter's mind, but that's where I feel it's moving me towards. So the passage again. For you have spent enough time in the past doing what pagans choose to do, living in debauchery, lust, drunkenness, orgies, carousing, and detestable idolatry. They are surprised that you do not join them in their reckless, wild living, and they heap abuse on you. But they will have to give account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. For this is the reason the gospel was preached, even to those who are now dead, so that they might be judged according to human standards in regard to the body, but live according to God in regard to the Spirit. So, what nugget of joy can I find in that passage? It wasn't easy. But I think where I'm going is that sense of stepping back and seeing that in this passage, Peter is reminding his readers that they have been set free by God to live in a different and ultimately more satisfying way. This is the sort of fullness of life that Jesus talks about. And I think we're often very critical of ourselves and the worst judges of ourselves. It feels like we haven't been changed by God, when actually other people can see that we have changed quite a bit. So be reassured that God is changing your life and leading you to this fullness of life. And I would suggest the two words to just spend time with are full life. And let God sort of unwrap that fullness of life inside you. So let's spend some time doing that. Well, I hope you can find some fullness of life. To me, that's very much tied up with a bit of sunshine. I think today and tomorrow, from what the forecast said, sunshine on us now. If you could just look out the window or dare to go out, it's not as slippery as it could be because it's quite dry, cold snow. But just find some of that joy and live with it and let it lift your spirits in these really dark and difficult times. The passage again. For you have spent enough time in the past doing what pagans choose to do, living in debauchery, lust, drunkenness, orgies, carousing, and detestable idolatry. They are surprised that you do not join them in their reckless, wild living, and they heap abuse on you. But they will have to give account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. For this is the reason the gospel was preached, even to those who are now dead, so that they might be judged according to human standards in regard to the body, but live according to God in regard to the Spirit. can just hear a sledge going down the gentle over the back there. So let's finish off reflecting on what we actually find most fulfilling and satisfying in life. What are those sort of life-giving things that make you feel alive? What inspires you to get out of the bed in the morning, particularly on these cold mornings? What sustains you and keeps you going when life is tough as it is at the moment? I find it really important to identify those things, the sort of things that I want to thank God for, and actually keeping those in mind. I find that actually quite transforming in itself. And I think they will give us those clues to that fullness of life that God really does want for us. But so often we find ourselves held back from. I've been held back from it for most of my adult life, I think. Sad to say. And a prayer. Loving God, keep us from fearing and judging those whose lives are different from ours, and help us to know what enables us to live to the full, so that we may be sustained in these difficult times, and as we seek to serve you for Jesus' sake. Amen. Well, it's lovely to share a little bit of joy with you this morning.